Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
So the Democrats have completed their 3-year impeachment crusade and done the deed. They have impeached President Donald Trump on a straight party line vote, claiming an imminent threat to the Constitution and national security. But then Nancy Pelosi dodged questions about impeachment from the media and threatened to not even send the impeachment up to the Senate for a trial and verdict. Joining us to try and explain this seemingly inexplicable behavior by the nation's most powerful Democrat and assess the state of the Democrats' presidential race after another debate this week is LibertyNation.com political columnist Joe Schaeffer. So, Joe, welcome. And no matter whether Pelosi finally, in the end, sends the articles of impeachment formally up to the Senate, just the publicity about her threat of holding her party's indictment makes it hard to figure how this is not an embarrassment for her. Why did she do it?
I mean, she's a political animal. This has been a political circus all along, and so we can only assume she sees political gain in doing this. It's certainly going to look horrible to the Democrats, and they've known this all along, as we've discussed, when it goes to the Senate and it immediately dissipates into nothing. So the more she extends this, the more they get to bask in their little moment of glory, their meaningless little moment of glory. I guess they see political advantage in that. Again, this is not about what's best for America. This is not about what's best for the American people. This is about what's best for the political interests of the Democratic Party.
Okay, so let's move on to the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell seemingly wants to either dismiss the indictment immediately or have a quick trial with few witnesses. But Trump wants something more like an inquisition with lots of witnesses, like Adam Schiff and Joe and Hunter Biden. Which approach do you think would be more sound politically?
I think the former approach, to get it over with as quickly as possible. You know, Trump loves the drama. He has a background in TV. He's good at that. But politically, it's not the right move. The right move is just to get this out of the way. You know, he has an agenda that needs to be implemented. He's supposed to be a change president. He's not supposed to be wasting his time with these distractions. And the distraction is part of the political plan here to keep him from doing the things he wants to do. So let's just get it out of the way. It'll make the Democrats look worse. It's like they made this big mountain out of something that the Senate can just sweep away immediately, and we just go back to the way things were. It's going to make Nancy Pelosi and her friends look even smaller than they already do at the moment.
Now, Joe, Democrats, as we've discussed, knew they would face this Senate trial. They knew the worm would start to turn as it is now. With Republicans taking control of the gavel, they knew impeachment wasn't popular because there was no crime even alleged in the articles. And yet they did it anyway. Now, you and I have been saying for months now that impeachment would backfire, but is where we stand right now better or worse for the Democrats than you predicted?
Well, I think it's worse only because, like you said, we've been talking about this for a long time, and they've wasted all these months. So now we're all these months closer to the 2020 presidential election, and it's turned out just like we thought. This is not going to be a great thing for them. This is going to make them look bad. They've learned nothing along the way, absolutely nothing from this whole political process. I thought them booing Steve Scalise when he brought up the pretty simple fact that 63 million Americans voted for this man. It's almost like they never considered that fact, that 63 million Americans would not be happy with them doing this. They live in a bubble. They live in a fantasy world. And the fact that we're so much further down the road now, so much closer to 2020, right around the corner, that's what makes it worse for them. They've wasted all this time, and they're not going to get anything useful out of it.
So, Joe, unbeknownst to most of America, Democrats held another presidential debate, their sixth, on Thursday night, with something of a beatdown on the young frontrunner in the Iowa caucuses, Pete Buttigieg, highlighting the festivities. Did any of the candidates do anything to distinguish themselves or break the logjam at the top of that field?
Yeah, Buttigieg had a lot of the attention, a lot of the sniping at him, but I really didn't think the things they talked about with him were that important. I think the one person who really stood out in a negative way was Bernie Sanders. I thought he bombed last night. He was completely terrible.
Well, Joe, now that the calendar's about to turn to 2020, regular workaday Americans will begin paying more serious attention to this presidential race. They'll ultimately have to decide between Trump or not Trump. Now, the economy's roaring, there's more jobs than people to fill them, but is the president's style, his divisiveness, and his stream of indiscreet remarks, like a really unfortunate joke that he told about the late Congressman John Dingell at a rally a couple of days ago, is all of that enough to lead voters to turn him out of office?
I mean, we got this answer in 2016. It's not even close. I mean, if you want to say this Dingle comment was, ill-timed, whatever, I thought it was just a bad joke that didn't work, nothing more. He said much worse than that in 2016, and we know that, and he got elected anyway.
Okay, Joe, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us. Joe Schaeffer, political columnist for LibertyNation.com.